Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Karen and I make bookish videos, and this is sort of a different video from what I've ever filmed before. I usually do reading vlogs and other videos like that, not really a sit down talkative one. But it was on my mind and heart to talk about this because this has been really big on TikTok recently. There is always a conversation happening on booktok about anti-intellectualism and reading and the community, and I just wanted to sit down and chat about how anti-intellectualism is happening in our public libraries. And my public library system is a really good example of anti-intellectualism, book bans, and anti-freedom to read. So if you don't know, I actually live in one of the most conservative counties in South Carolina, and I do believe that my public library system has lasted quite a while for the political climate and for the makeup of this county and the people on our board. To give some context, I started attending our public library board meetings back in the second half of last year, and then I had fallen off on attending and speaking at these meetings because I was hospitalized and things just got busy from there. In the time that I started attending these library board meetings, there was a lot that I learned. I got to observe the people who attend these meetings, for one. I observed relationship dynamics and board dynamics, as well as behind the scenes conversations that are happening. And it's just so much to take in and so much to talk about. At your public library, people can put in a consideration request, meaning someone can pull any book off the shelf as long as it meets the criteria, send in paperwork saying that this book needs to be reconsidered for this, and this reason. And typically this happens for books that are in the youth and or like teen or young adult section. And so I can't remember the books that, I think like Flamer is obviously one of them. You can also see what paperwork people send in and what books people are reconsidering. But the policy really is that these board members are supposed to read the book and then vote to remove or keep the book in whatever section that it's in. Reconsideration process exists, and I think it's a process that exists at a lot of, in all public libraries. It's just I realize who's actually the ones putting in reconsideration requests and the actual intent behind it, and most of the time these people are not even reading the books in their entirety. I do want to talk about a couple of different meetings. There was one last year where our state representative came to our meeting, to the library board meeting, and I don't think he had time on the agenda to address the group, but the board brought him up after public comment. At the time, I'm not sure what's really been going on, but there's a proviso in the South Carolina state budget stating that public libraries have to certify that they don't have prurient material in their library system in order to receive their state funding. If you don't know, public libraries depend a lot on state and county funding, especially for my library. This representative came into the library prior to this meeting and essentially met with library staff and demanded that books were to be removed from the youth or young adult section and into the adult section without due process, without the reconsideration policy. And he stood up in that library board meeting and proceeded to talk about how he has not read the books himself. He doesn't actually know what's going on in them. He said it'll take him months to finish a 300-page book. A library board member was like, it should take you hours, not months. So that was an experience in itself. It was really disheartening to see these leaders go at it for things that are constitutional rights. It is a constitutional right to have access to our library material. It was also just so disheartening to listen to this state representative say, I don't know what's going on in this book because I haven't read it, but I want it removed from the shelves. That was when I learned and realized that there were people who attend these meetings who have insider knowledge and insider connections with people on our county seats and at the state level. So that's disappointing. Also, a lot of the times with these reconsideration policies, whether a book stays on the shelf sort of depends on who is attending these meetings and who is voting and if they have quorum. So I'm part of the advocacy subcommittee for my Friends of the Library, and I get updates via email from previous meetings, and these meetings are live streamed. So when I get the chance, I will catch up on them. But I wanted to just talk about some updates that are happening in my public library system. One update is that a trustee raised concerns about the Library Bill of Rights and Freedom to Read statement, suggesting these documents may be removed from board policy. Their comments centered on a belief that they do not sufficiently protect minors and lack clarity around age-appropriate materials. The Library Bill of Rights listed in the library board policies come from the American Library Association. Now, if you are not familiar with book banners, they do not like the American Library Association. The Library Bill of Rights state books and other resources should be provided for the interests, information, enlightenment of all people of the community the library serves. Materials should not be excluded because of its origin, background, or views of those contributing to their creation. Now, I do fear that certain library board members do not include children in their list of patrons or people who are part of the entire community. Materials should not be proscribed or removed because of partisan or doctrinal disapproval. Libraries should challenge censorship in the fulfillment of their responsibility to provide information and enlightenment. There's going to be a lot of room for disaster once this gets removed. Libraries should cooperate with all persons and groups concerned with resisting abridgment of free expression and free access to ideas. A person's right to use a library should not be denied or abridged because of origin, age, background, or views. Let me repeat that. A person's right to use a library should not be denied or abridged because of origin, age, background, or views. I really wish that was kind of worded as a person's right to use a library and library material, but I guess that is kind of all-encompassing. There's also a freedom to read statement that's actually really long, but it is also provided by the American Library Association. It essentially talks about censorship and the right to access library material. Next, the board reviewed draft changes to both the collection development policy and the reconsideration of library materials policy. Unfortunately, changes were not tracked, making it difficult to clearly identify all revisions. That is a terrible mistake on whoever is in charge of this database. The collection development policy, particularly regarding the teen collection, now contains broader and more subjective language. The reconsideration policy proposes that materials under review be removed from circulation until a final decision is made. This approach could easily be weaponized, allowing a single complaint to temporarily remove materials from shelves with significant implications for access and intellectual freedom. That is a major concern. It is a major concern that books under review are being removed from the shelves before any decision is made. That is, when you are removing access to a book like that without due process, that is a book ban. That is censorship. And it is happening in our public libraries. Last night, the library board met and they didn't record the meeting. It wasn't live streamed. And I guess they technically don't have to be because it's not quorum, so they didn't vote on anything last night. But I think the next library board meeting is when they're voting on things. I am at a point where I don't think my 3-minute public comment speech to the library board makes a difference to them. Like, what I say won't affect anything that they decide on because they do not want to listen. Our library board members, most of my library board members do not want to listen to their patrons. They don't want to listen to the people who actually support the public library. So when I'm watching these videos and these think pieces on anti-intellectualism and booktok and how those two are connected, yes, and it is happening in our public libraries before us. If you have a library card, you have full access. Even if you don't have a library card to your county, you have full access to your library board meetings. You have the ability to email your county board members, your library board members. You have the ability to email your library director and speak up at the library board meetings. And right now, I am in a space where I feel defeated. Like I said, nothing that I say is going to change the minds of these library board members. Book bans and censorship is such a huge thing in South Carolina. There's a group down in Beaufort, South Carolina in the Low Country who they're students, and it's a student-led organization against book bans, and they do a lot of advocacy work. And a very similar group started with the local high school here in my county, and the president and vice president, both high school students, attend these library board meetings and report back to their group and post about it online and talk about what is going on. Everyone deserves access to library material, whatever library material they want. When you take away the part about access to library material and think about what some of our library board members are saying, at a certain level, they are parenting other parents' children. The way they are trying to get rid of certain material, limit access through library cards, do what you want with your own children. Do not parent other people's children. I don't understand. I told my mother on the phone one day that if she had ever done that in public, if she had ever done that at the library, because I was a library kid growing up, I would have been so embarrassed. I would have been so embarrassed that she had done or said anything along those lines. Anyway, I feel like I'm getting sidetracked. I'm making this video to kind of sort of process this at like a long form content level, because I've made a TikTok about this that was like under 2 minutes, and I feel like that's just not enough. A 2-minute video is not enough to express just how defeated I feel in this process and how sad I feel for people who are going to lose access to material, to books, and life-changing and life-saving books. I have read books like Not All Boys Are Blue and Flamer. While there are certain parts to it that I cannot connect with, there are parts to it that I understand, and I understand that it's life-saving for the next person. I don't get it. Also, I really hope that someone from like the ACLU or someone, I need help. This is my call. This is my cry for help. I need someone to help me save my public library system in this county in South Carolina, because it's not fair. It's not fair that as loud as I can speak at these meetings and stare at the board members in their faces, what I say will not change. If you're watching this and you have been part of the booktok and anti-intellectualism conversation, I urge you to get involved in your community at a real grassroots level. I decided to just open up the camera and talk, so there are no coherent thoughts. This video might not make sense at all. I've seen a lot of conversation online, but I feel like a lot of us are pointing fingers at each other, and we are just talking at the camera, but not urging other people to participate and engage in their communities. The way we show up in our communities and in our libraries is so important. It is so important right now. So anyway, my camera's overheating, so I need to go. Thanks for watching. Please send me a DM. Please leave me a comment if you have any ideas on how I can move forward with my library system and what I can do, who I can get involved. Happy reading.